Hey associates, this ride-along speed build is for the AI Standard Operating Procedure Challenge. And so I'm starting out with Google Gemini, asking it, okay, act as a consultant for success routines and professionals, telling it exactly what I wanted it to write, standard operating procedure, outlines a morning routine, just giving it those details. And it, produced something pretty strong right away. It knows what SOPs require, and so I was able to really just copy, and paste what is in there, which is kind of the goal. I want you to really follow and assess and see what it creates for you. Just adding some of those little details for standard SOP versioning, approval. Those are just like metadata stuff we would expect on the program. And then really reading through, okay, what is this routine it expected me to follow? And adding that main prompt in. Moving through, just like updating some of the titles and section-y type stuff on it. Deciding, okay, routine overview, main heading, scope definitions. I decided were kind of subheadings under that, and then just making some light adjustments to stuff, deleting some things. The AI often will give you stuff you don't need, and making those adjustments. And so after getting through all of that, reading through, here's my plan, and I'll see you back here in 3 days after I try out this actual procedure, and we'll talk about the updates and changes that I needed to make. All right, hey, we're back. Now that I went and tested out this kind of SOP that it gave me, writing my intro to the procedure section. Every time you have a main title like procedure or whatever, you need to always write a little intro overview so people know what they skipped to. In this case, I did do it over sort of a week. I did do over like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday kind of situation, but I definitely could see myself doing this, following this on a weekend as well. So I went ahead and added what would be the procedure if this is a Saturday and a Sunday instead of a Monday through Friday. And now I am, based on my notes and my reflection, my experience of following what it had recommended, I had to make changes, adaptations to it. That's your goal as well, to kind of see, here's what it gave me, here's how I enhance, right, what an AI generated. And so, for example, it didn't say when to actually wake up. So I had to go and be like, set the alarm for 6:15, 7:30, right? Standard operating procedures are all about details like that. Added some more tips on how to do things like avoid snooze, realize, I wouldn't fill up my water bottle before opening the curtains, like I need some light. And so I ended up, that was the next step I did, was always open my curtains. Then I'd go upstairs, fill my water bottle. And adjusting the time. It didn't take me 30 minutes to do all these steps. It took me like 10 minutes to do all of these steps. So adjusting the time increments compared to what the AI had given me. This energize phase, it was like, you should go outside and do something. And I did, and I am fitting with my own life. I realized, part of that good operating procedure, like if you have pets, which I do, go outside with them, right? You gotta let your pets out in the morning in some capacity, I would hope. So just go outside with them. And so adding some of those details. I also, it said do some exercise. And so I just made that fit for my life, which was exercise, like giving water to the ducks. Then I also kind of remembered, oh yeah, I also had to get dressed before I could go outside. So adding that officially into the SOP. It's like something that I did, but, realized, it wasn't actually stated. So with SOPs, you also want to account for literally every step. So that way it's always consistent and nothing gets forgotten. I also prepared my coffee before going outside. I'm kind of have one cup then, and then another cup later. So I had to add that. Then going into kind of the mindset growth phase, this is where I, wanted to add some more specifics and had to do a lot of adjusting to these sections as well. And so I definitely found playing podcasts. I personally love podcasts more than music. So that's what I would usually listen to. So I'm just writing that in. Hey, as a note, I found podcasts are better, but you know, as long as you can kind of tune it out, and gave some actual recommendations of the podcasts I listened to while I was testing out these procedures. Checking the calendar, and it didn't give me a lot to go off of. So big thing of revising and working with AI interns is we have to do a lot of expansion and editing to their work, because they just, I mean, inherently they can't possibly know all the details of our specific, you know, situations that we're trying to say and express. So it did have a really good outline. It was a pretty good like routine, and then I had to add, right, a lot more in there. So for like the prioritizing tasks, now I'm actually putting my full own little task productivity routine that I had to come up with and sort of follow, because it didn't really say anything. It just said, figure out your tasks. And that is not enough detail for a good, consistent, standard operating procedure. The gratitude practice I didn't like, and I really didn't do that much. Like I tried it and was like, nope, this is not going to work for me. So to continue it, I did have to make some of those changes, again, to fit. So your goal is try following exactly what it says, and then adjust, adapt, update to actually fit your life and what you would be working on. Now I'm going through that revision history. Okay, here's all the changes that had to be made. SOPs, it's important to keep track of alterations or revisions that have to go along, because the point of this document is that consistency, accountability, tracking. And so if something changes along the way, you just want to note what was the change that had to be made, kind of why. So I'm just organizing it by the different like phases and what I changed. I pulled up my, you know, original Gemini chat there so I could directly kind of compare the elements on it as well. Cool. And that's really it. Like just keep track of your notes, keep track of those changes along the way. And then the last thing that I'm going to do, you know, is I'm hitting some editors, going into my Google Photos, right, grabbing those photos of me doing just a little different task in the routine, which is just part of the assignment that I asked you to do. Right, so that way you actually, you know, are following it. And in a real SOP, like, images, diagrams, visuals, yeah, sometimes they're there if it's helpful, sometimes it's not. Just kind of depends on your vibe. But in this one, we are gonna add some visuals. So there's my doing the ducks in the morning, go outside for the energize phase. There's, you know, our room with the windows all open. My image of kind of that planner, prioritization task list, and then I'm just write a little caption. Remember, captions are always helpful when we have a visual so people know what they're looking at and why. And so we're just writing this caption of each of the different photos and what's going on in kind of those photos and areas. And doing some last, you know, I like to reduce the spaces, making sure all my headings, right, they aren't widowed. That's when you have a heading at the bottom of a page with no text. Running the proofreader in Google Docs. In Microsoft, it's called Editor, and exporting to be done. Make your own versions, really, you know, give it a shot, test it out, document what that process is, so that way you can keep following it, revising it, altering it to the future to be productive. All right, thanks, associates. Vibes.